What's going on, guys? What's going on today? I was working on another video, and then out of nowhere, out of absolutely left field, Microsoft done dropped a Phil Spencer interview. I was like, we got to get on this right now. So I watched it like 5 times, and I've chosen some of the specific points that I want to, engage with, I want to talk about on the channel. I will put in the description below where you guys can catch this. It's on the Xbox channel. It's the new podcast they're doing. And definitely, great listen. Go over there, listen to this, guys. I want you to listen to this. And there's some things that I want to talk about specifically about this. And we're going to get to that here in a second. It's just, they go over stuff like what's going to happen with Call of Duty in the future. I'm not really talking about that because I think they've been very clear and very transparent with that. He pretty much said don't expect no, DLC exclusives to Xbox. Don't expect early access into beta, stuff like that. He was pretty much like, look, I know that we only promised you Call of Duty in general. So I want to be very transparent to tell you that not only are you going to get Call of Duty when the Xbox ecosystem gets it, you're going to also get all the expansions, all the content, all the skins, and you won't even have to worry about stuff when it comes to, betas and stuff. Everything will be equal grounds for both sides. Now, what's interesting is he only mentioned this with Call of Duty. Like, nothing else. He didn't give type of energy that he was going to lock down other franchises, but it is interesting that every time he used these verbiage, it was always towards Call of Duty. So let's go ahead and pop over here to YouTube. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to watch this segment, talk about this segment. We got 3. We're going to talk about all 3. Then we'll talk about the whole opinions of the whole interview in general. So let's get on with this.
Part of it, but it's also, and you wrote in your Xbox Wire post last week as well, that the work has started on bringing Activision Blizzard King games to Game Pass and other platforms. And I think like speculation and wish lists have been running wild ever since last week. So I'm sure you've seen all of that. But what does that mean exactly, especially when we think about our last acquisition in 2021 with Bethesda? There was a fairly immediate drop of back catalog games. So I think people are looking to that and wondering, is that kind of how the format is going to go now, or what does that actually look like?
And I think rightfully so, right? When we finished Bethesda, there was this great moment. We were able to put a bunch of the back catalog games in, celebrate their history. The truth of the matter is, with Activision Blizzard King, that the regulatory process took so long. And frankly, there was a lot of uncertainty in that process up until really a week before we closed, or the week of, when the CMA finally came down to their decision, that we weren't able to get in and work with mostly Activision and Blizzard in this case, on that back catalog work. So now that the deal is closed, we're starting that work, but there is work. And I think the Activision Twitter handle, or X handle, whatever we're calling it, did put out a statement. I can't call it X, but Twitter handle did put out something that talked about 2024. I think that's accurate. There's no I would love it if there was some kind of secret celebration drop that's coming in the next couple of weeks. There's not.
So that's pretty much all we have to listen to when it comes to that particular one. Phil was just honest about it. He's like, look, I don't want you guys thinking that, I'm just, we're coming out there, we're saying we're not going to get this kind of content. It's coming. We want to be transparent when, most likely 2024. I remember a lot of people thought that when this was announced, they would get like a huge influx of Activision games like the week after. I kind of figured that when they didn't do it the day they announced the actual acquisition, when it was officially closed, because to me that would be the perfect time to do it. Now, since they have to wait till next year, I'm going to be interested if we see, them do it all at once, or, them, okay, here's all the Call of Duty games, here's some of the Blizzard games. I'm kind of curious if they're going to do them all and then drop most of them, or they're just going to, kind of like, spread them out throughout all of next year. It's kind of curious on that. Another thing I've noticed that he said is, I've been very, wary on if this deal barely went through to Microsoft point. And it does look like even Microsoft themselves didn't know if this deal was going to go through. It does look like they were very unsure, and that's why they haven't been really working on the backwards compatibility thing. Because I think the Bethesda thing, they knew that was going through, so they were very open to doing the back end on that because they knew that was going through. But keep in mind, if you know the backwards compatibility team and the Game Pass team, let's say they're going to do some updates on that, they're working on this game. What's going to happen if they spend 5-6 months making sure all of these games are ready for this announcement that's coming out last week, and then a month ago, before it's supposed to be announced, the deal gets blocked? And I think they didn't want to waste those man hours on an if, so they went ahead and waited. I think that was the right decision in that game. So let's move on to the second one, guys.
And then we'll look at it. Like I think we've done an okay job as Xbox. I don't think we've done kind of an A+ job on looking at our franchises and revisiting them. It's always a trade-off between what do you do that's new and going back and doing something. I do think with Game Pass, we have the ability to maybe pick a couple franchises every year and almost do like a revisited. I just made up that term, so it's not a brand.
It's not on a box.
It's not on a box, but you know, I tease about things like Hexen just because I remember playing it as a kid. I have no plan for that, but I do think when you look across all of the franchises that are part of our teams, there's an opportunity for us to go back, even if it's just to recognize the moment and what those things meant in gaming's history and do something right with it, make it available to people through Game Pass. I think there's an opportunity. There's not a plan for that, but there's an opportunity.
So pretty much when it comes to that, you know, Phil Spencer's come out and he's saying, look, we understand. We be seeing you guys on Twitter. There's people saying they want prototype, they want remakes of this, remakes of that. Guitar Hero being revived, which I think that was more Activision and, you know, the leaked documents that happened. You know, they hear us on Twitter constantly asking about remakes or, you know, sequels of the thing. You know, I myself have been screaming to the top of my lungs about Banjo-Kazooie. They see this stuff and they understand we want this stuff. And I, for one, feel like Toys for Bob is a fantastic studio that can actually work on Banjo-Kazooie. And I think that is a good, solid foundation. I think there's a lot that Microsoft can do. I actually would like them to have like their own Bluepoint, the people that make, you know, remakes of PlayStation games over there at PlayStation. I think, you know, if they found them a good studio that's really good at that type of work, or maybe build one from the ground up that just focuses on older games from older Xbox studios. He does go into this interview and say that this isn't just Activision. He says that, you know, if any of his current developers want to work on something old that makes sense, he is 100% down on that. And I think that is fantastic mindset, because a lot of these people, we want that. We want the games that we grew up with getting a new fresh coat of paint. And not to mention, if people love that new fresh coat of paint, we'll end up getting sequels in the long run, and maybe we'll get, you know, stuff that we didn't necessarily see from going forward. So let's get to the second one, guys. The third one. Let's get to the third one.
Like you mentioned, you're heading out to Stockholm
Yeah.
here, later today. Xbox is already a big team, and now it is, you know, much bigger with like we mentioned, 9 new studios. We doubled. I don't know where you find the time in the day, but how hands-on do you expect you will be with you know, our new teammates?
Yeah, and some people here know that I'm a big consumer of what we do. I play a lot of games. I have opinions. They're not always right. They're definitely not always right. But I've already started asking questions and giving my point of view. I'm not one that says, thou must, like we have to go do this. But asking questions both to learn and to see what we're thinking about and where the ambition is. But I rely on the teams. Like I get the title. I get to come on cool podcasts and talk too much. But the work that happens here is really down to the individuals on the team. From people who are on camera 5 times in the last 5.
So, let me switch over back. I like this because they pretty much asked Phil, they look, once again, Xbox has their ear to the community. one of the criticisms that we've been having is Microsoft expanding faster than they can realistically monitor. And Phil came out openly on Kind of Funny last year, and he said, look, I think this year, one of the biggest issues that we had with Redfall is we didn't go and spend time with some of these studios. We didn't ask enough questions. We should have been more hands-on when it come to Arcane working on Redfall. And Phil pretty much looks like he's improving. He's getting, input from everyone. And right there, it just seems like he's learning from his mistakes. He's like, look, I am going to go and talk to studios. I'm going to see what they need. What can we do to help them? And, I think that's the best thing you can do. Listen to your developers. But at the same time, you got to have kind of a hands-off approach if they've earned the hands-off approach. To me, if you have a studio like Obsidian, you have a studio like Coalition, Bethesda Software Studio, I would say probably the people who make Diablo. I don't know the team right off the bat. These studios have earned their stripes, and I feel like they don't really need a whole lot of hands-on approach. But other studios that haven't really earned that respect yet, because they either, they're working on a game under Microsoft or they're releasing their next title, until those games come out and they start passing some of those, the checks and balances, because everything needs checks and balances. And I think Microsoft is definitely seeing that after the Redfall thing, and we'll probably see more, not necessarily hands-on approach from Microsoft, but I think Xbox will go around and look at these studios more often. Keep in mind, because of the pandemic, they weren't really able to go to these studios in the vast that they wanted to. And Phil did bring up that a little bit. Definitely go watch the interview. The interview's a solid interview, and I think you guys will enjoy it. But that's pretty much the whole interview, guys. One thing that we can always say is Phil listens to this community. Phil understands that he gets criticized rightfully sometimes, and sometimes he gets criticized unrightfully. Sometimes people just nitpick for no reason. But I do think, the points they brought up in this video proves that they've listened to us. They want to be better for the brand because we want them to be better. Just from asking about the Call of Duty stuff, the remake stuff, they are listening to the feedback and they are coming out here with this podcast, answering the questions. And I think that's always a solid leadership. But put in the comment section below, what was your favorite thing Phil said in this interview? Me, personally, is the remake thing. Because I think I might finally get my Banjo-Kazooie remake. I think that'd be a solid experience for me. I think if Ratchet and Clank has a audience in 2023, there's no reason Banjo-Kazooie couldn't have that same thing. But put in the comment section below what you guys feel about this. And until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace. Man, that interview was pretty good, guys. It was pretty good.